you die.
Most of them out here, and today we've got a Morathi guide for legendary difficulty in Total War Warhammer 2. This guide provides an alternate sort of playstyle that both negates the difficulty of the Morathi start and also gives you a unique sort of playstyle based around really early effective hero spam and a special brand of diplomacy involving murdering lots of your own Dark Elf lords. To get started on the first turn, you want to hire another lord. You want to choose one with low loyalty. The ring icon on the top right of their card in the hiring screen shows the range of loyalty that they can spawn with. So choose one that's 1 to 6 if you can, or 2 to 7. Then transfer the 2 spearmen, the horsemen, and the witch elves onto the new lord. Next, disband the witch elves and the dark riders. Upgrade your barracks to the halls of mustering. This will allow you to hire 2 master heroes. Attach your assassin to Morathi's army and end turn. Turn 2. Hire another lord at the ancient city of Quintex. Again, look for one with the lowest loyalty possible. Now, transfer the 2 units back and forth between the 2 lords. If the lords are correctly placed right next to the ancient city of Quintex, they should actually use 0 movement in order to transfer the units. If you're not correctly placed, though, it will use a tiny amount of movement and you won't be able to do it infinitely. So you need to place them correctly so that it actually costs you 0 movement each time you transfer the troops. Once the red loyalty ring under the lord goes down to 1, then you need to replace that lord. Click on the lord and then you choose another low loyalty lord to replace him. And when you replace him, because he was at 1 loyalty and replacing a lord automatically takes 1 loyalty away from them, he'll respawn here as a separatist. Now you want more than 1 separatist from Morathi to kill, so you go back to your 2 lords and start transferring the troops back and forth again. They actually lose loyalty when a separatist is spawned sometimes, so you'll see that one of them is already down to 2, and she's just lost another one, so she's down to 1 now. So then we replace her, use the boot button down here to replace the lord, choose another lowish loyalty one. Another separatist has been spawned down here. We still have enough money to hire 1 more lord, so keep transferring the troops back and forth between these 2. Every time you transfer the troops, the lord that's gaining the troops has a chance to gain loyalty, and the one that's losing troops has a chance to lose loyalty. But if you're transferring 2 troops at a time, the tendency is that more often than not they'll lose loyalty, so eventually one of them will get their loyalty reduced down to 1. If you use a different amount of troops that you're transferring, it's balanced differently and sometimes it can go up, but transferring 2 units back and forth seems to be the sweet spot. Hire 1 more lord to replace the low loyalty one, and when the separatist forms, now you can take Morathi out to kill as many of the separatist armies as possible. This method of farming separatists or rebels for XP and loot has been around for a while. I'm not sure whether it was Axiom Razor or Legend of Total War that first popularized it, but it's a really handy technique for power leveling your heroes and lords. Level up Morathi and your assassin hero. For Morathi, I'm heading for Lightning Strike first, so that you can get more battles out of the separatists and get more XP. For the assassin, I go for Scavenge first, because that gives a little bit more loot from the post-battle after each time we attack one of these separatist armies. Now this is where the murderous diplomacy aspect comes in. A very smart man from our Total War community that goes by the name of Thingymbob noticed that they actually get a diplomatic penalty with Ss'ildra, the separatists, when they trespass into their area, which in effect makes Ss'ildra like us more. So if we go into our diplomacy here, you'll see Ss'ildra doesn't like us because they're at war with us. However, they now have 6 positive relations because of military actions against Cult of Pleasure separatists, and 6 because we're at war with Cult of Pleasure separatists. And if you mouse over the separatists, you'll see they've got an aversion to the separatists, and also they've got an additional -10 aversion against them because they've been trespassed against, because we pushed the separatists into their territory. The separatist armies will tend to make a beeline for your cities if they can. Because we're currently trying to build this building in the city, we don't want it to get sieged, so you can try to use these other armies to sort of block off the approach to the city, although the separatists quite often can just kind of walk straight through you. So what you want to do is actually go into ambush mode if you've got enough movement. That should, even if your ambush fails, that should trigger an automatic attack when they enter this guy's zone, so that they won't be able to attack through him and get your city. And then just end turn. Looks like he spotted the ambush and didn't go into my zone, but at least it stopped him from actually sieging the city. We've got a loyalty dilemma. Generally, you want to choose the one that reduces their loyalty because you're trying to reduce their loyalty. Sometimes you get monetary rewards. Just make sure you don't take one that reduces their loyalty to 0. They need to have at least 1 loyalty left for you to be able to replace the Lord and trigger the rebellion. Turn 3, move your 2 spawning stacks back to the city of Quintex so they can transfer units between them without using up any of their movement. Swap the units back and forth until you reduce one of the Lord's loyalty to 1. Replace the Lord and spawn another rebel separatist. Keep spawning separatists. You will get money back when you kill the separatists, but just make sure that you have enough money at the end of the turn to buy your 2 master heroes. Note that when they retreat with some health left, you can attack them again for extra XP. That's one reason why it's good to keep your army small at the start, so they have more chance of surviving. But note, if they're up against the walls of the valley that you're in, they'll actually get destroyed if they try to retreat. So that's really bad because they'll get destroyed, but after the resolution of the battle, so you don't get the money for killing them. If they survive the battle and retreat, but then die because they're up against the wall, then you don't get the money. Quite often you'll have enough money to buy an extra Lord, but you won't have the movement on Morathi to actually kill it, so you may as well just wait until the following turn to spawn it. Because some of the enemy lords retreated but then were wiped out on the campaign map, we didn't get the loot from them. We're a bit low on funds, but that's okay because Nolosi should arrive with an army to attack us in the next turn or 2, and that'll give us a bit more money. It's a bit random when you're auto-resolving these separatist battles because of when they flee and then you don't get the money from killing the Lord. You need that money from killing the Lord to be able to maintain it. So if Nolosi doesn't attack on around turn 4 is when she usually attacks, if for some reason she doesn't attack, then you'll need to start manually resolving those battles to make sure that you kill the Lords and they don't escape. Otherwise you'll go broke and you won't be able to keep maintaining it. Ideally, you want Morathi to initiate all of the attacks so she gets the full XP, but if she can't reach, that's okay to initiate the attacks with the other lords so that at least you've got the money keeping on rolling in, and she'll still get, I think, half XP for supporting the battle, and the heroes in Morathi's army will still get their XP for the battle as well. If you're finding that the War Hydra's health is slowly getting lower and lower in each battle, you can actually rest the Hydra out for a bit and transfer it to one of the other armies temporarily and just kill the separatists without using the Hydra.
Let all tremble.
When you level up your masters, make sure you put points into the stimulate growth. Because you haven't conquered the rest of the province, you'll need that extra growth to be able to level up your buildings. As soon as Morathi hits level 8, you want to take lightning strikes so you can start maximizing the amount of XP that she can get for herself and the heroes in her stack. And after that, you want to unlock the skill that's going to give her the ability to recruit sorceresses. In this particular save, Nolosi's brought her army down on turn 5. Sometimes she comes down on turn 4. Basically, that's okay. Still spawn your separatists, kill as many as you can, and then just make sure that you pull Morathi back so that she's in range of the ancient city of Quintex so that she can get the garrison to help her in the battle. Level 9, take Akadi's Blessing, and level 10 you want to go for the first sorceress. Then you'll be able to recruit 2 sorceresses and add them to Morathi's army. Nolosi's army attacks you over the end turn. You use the garrison in the fight as well. You can just auto-resolve this battle. Most of the casualties will be taken on the garrison anyway. And that'll give you a nice amount of money, so now you can really get the separatist farming rolling properly. Now that Morathi's reached level 10, you can take the first sorceress. Then you can recruit sorceresses from Quintex. Grab a fire mage. And just any mage that's got knowledgeable trait, or just get whatever, get another fire mage. Once Nolosi's army's been defeated, you want to really concentrate on farming these separatists, at the end of each turn, you want to try and get Morathi back towards the city of Quintex, and then spawn the separatists further away than Morathi is. So then when Morathi attacks, you can sort of force them back and push them out of the territory into Ss'ildra's territory. And that way they'll accrue more and more trespassing penalties against Ss'ildra and Nolosi's faction. Eventually you'll be able to stack up a lot of trespassing penalties so that the relation between Ss'ildra and the separatists will look something like this. And that will give you huge positive relations with Nolosi yourself. So in this game you can see we've got plus 200 positive relations. And all of this means that around turn 8 or 9, you should be able to request peace with Nolosi, and in the same diplomatic action, also get a Confederation. So if for some reason you can't get the Confederation at the same time in the same turn as the peace, I'd recommend you just don't take the peace, just stay at war with them, and just keep building up the positive relations. And then at some point you should be able to just request peace and get the Confederation in the same turn. Also, I wouldn't do it any earlier than turn 8, because if you do it too early, then Nolosi won't have recruited 2 masters. If you leave it till turn 8 or 9, then Nolosi will have recruited 2 masters, and you'll be able to add them to your hero stack. So yeah, by about turn 8 or 9, you should be able to confederate Nolosi. You'll take a little bit of a reliability penalty if you confederate her before turn 11, but it should be minor and you should recover pretty quickly. At that point you can kind of decide where you want to go with your campaign. You can just keep turtling in your home province. Even worst comes to worst, you can just go back to the ancient city of Quintex and just rely on the garrison to keep you pretty safe in there, while you keep spawning separatists and farming them and making your hero stack even more and more powerful. At this point you'll have 4 masters, 2 sorceresses, an assassin, and you should be able to get a hag pretty soon after that as well. And all of them will be leveling up really fast, where you can sort of spawn like 4 battles per turn, probably on average. I tried also using the same technique to get diplomacy bonuses with Alethana, but it didn't work. So it must depend on the type of personality that the other faction has. Otherwise, for some factions, pushing enemies into their territory to get the trespass penalty is not enough to make them hate them, to give you the really high diplomatic bonuses like it did against Ss'ildra. Regarding farming separatists later in the game, once you've got enough money, you don't need to do this method of transferring troops backwards and forwards to lower the loyalty of the lords. What you can do instead is just hire every lord in the pool by just hiring 1 lord and then replacing them and then replacing them and replacing them until you've used up every lord that's available that turn. And then keep doing that every turn. So after 5 turns, the first lot that you did will become available again, and you can disband them again. And then 5 turns later, they'll become available again. You can disband them again, etc., etc. And each time you do that, they'll lose 1 loyalty. So it'll take a few turns. It'll take like 5 or 10 turns before it starts kicking in. But once you get a stable of them coming through, you'll be able to just constantly spawn rebel lords whenever you want. And the loot you get from killing them will pay for itself. One last thing that I wanted to mention was the free hero stack build for Morathi. So if you choose the specific skills, then you can actually get free upkeep for any heroes that are in Morathi's army. Heroes in Morathi's faction already have 50% reduced upkeep anyway. In order to get free upkeep for her heroes for Morathi, you need to take the Tenacious skill line and then choose Absolute Devotion. And then as well as that, you want Quartermaster and Renowned and Feared. And that'll give you completely free heroes, even if you have 2 other armies in addition to Morathi's armies, giving you, 30% extra supply lines. Even if you have 3 other armies, I think they're still really cheap. Now, normally I wouldn't recommend that you do this, because late game you're going to have a lot of money playing as the Dark Elves, assuming that you survive the early campaign and you get rolling. You're going to have pretty much unlimited money, so it's a kind of a waste of money, a waste of points, putting points into Quartermaster and skills like that. However, it does open up some really interesting gameplay options, because with free upkeep for Morathi's stack, that means that it's really easy for you to play a kind of horde style gameplay where you can migrate because you don't need any economic base to be able to support Morathi's stack. You can have it with a half stack of heroes and a stack of crossbowmen, and it'll still be really cheap, and you'll be able to support that on just your 2,500 King's Purse, even if you don't have any income coming in from buildings. So Morathi could sort of leapfrog her way up to Naggarond if she wanted to be next to Malekith, and perhaps use the Separatist diplomacy cheese to buff Naggaroth's reputation with her to help her get a confederation. Or she could also use that possibly on the other Dark Elf factions up north to quickly get confederations with them to take over their land, so she won't really have lost out on that much development time because they'll probably be tier 4 by the time she gets up there. So yeah, just interesting other options that I thought it opened up that you guys might be interested in. There are also a lot of other opportunities to use this diplomacy cheese for other Dark Elf lords. Depending on the personality type of your neighbour, you might be able to really buff the relations by pushing separatists into their lands. And of course it works for Skaven as well. So there might be different opportunities with different lords where you could use this to do some diplomacy cheese for Skaven also. Anyway, this video has gone on way too long already. Sorry that there's not really much action, it was just a very talky kind of video, but I hope you guys found it interesting anyway. Oh, and one last shout out to Thingymbob, who came up with the idea for this diplomacy cheese using the Separatists. Awesome idea, I love it, and you're awesome, Thingymbob. Thanks.
It only takes a cinder for a phoenix to rise.